were so close. They were this close to sticking the landing, and they just did not do it. Overall, night 2 of WrestleMania 41 was a much better show than night 1, but it was all leading up to that finish in the main event for the WWE Championship with John Cena and Cody Rhodes, and it fell completely flat. Now, I must express the fact that the feeling of underwhelming that main event garnered has nothing to do with the fact that John Cena won. Oh yes, on this night, John Cena made history and won his 17th World Championship, officially breaking the Ric Flair record that WWE created, thus granting John Cena the honor of being the man who has held the most world championships in WWE history. That is perfectly fine. That's exactly what I predicted would happen. Cody losing is not an issue. Cody's had that belt for over 378 days. It's not an issue with him losing to Cena. They can build him back up to take the belt right back from him in a few months. It doesn't do anything to harm him losing to Cena. Cena winning, perfectly fine. That's not the issue. The issue is how they handled it. The issue, and you can throw out the word underwhelming and expectations and things like that. I don't really know what my expectations were exactly for this match, but whatever they were, I know they were not met. That much I do know. I don't know how high or low they were, but I do know those expectations were not met. And this main event here, the match itself, from the time the bell rang, they were telling a story, and Cena was very plodding. He was very slow. He was very methodical. He was playing the heel role. He was intentionally trying to not do anything that would really garner cheers. Of course, that didn't stop the crowd. This Vegas crowd was firmly behind John Cena. You had some boos in there, some let's go Cena, Cena sucks type chants, but they were firmly behind John Cena. Cody Rhodes booed out of the building. We saw a glimpse of that on the SmackDown prior to WrestleMania, that he got booed there, and I had a feeling during this match that would also play a role here, and it did. Cody got significantly booed throughout this entire match, and even when Cena won, got a huge ovation for it. But man, the match itself just, and I know Cena was playing the heel. He's playing this role of not giving the people what they want. He is trying to not do anything for the people. And I'm sure everything about the match and the finish, all of that was designed for that very purpose, to piss everyone off, to make you mad, to make you upset, to make you frustrated. That's what John Cena's heel role is supposed to be. That's what the Death Riders are supposed to be in AEW. That angle sucks. And the finish of this match sucked too. Because with all this stuff that Cena was doing, Cody not really getting a whole lot of offense in, eventually he did. And it became a little more back and forth. At least the fans were loud. That is what really helped this match, because if the crowd was dead and weren't really into anything going on here, it probably would have come off even worse. But thankfully for these guys, the crowd was really loud for everything they were doing. But what it came down to, there was a ref bump, which really played no big role. Cena took off the turnbuckle pad and exposed it and used that, but that was just good for a near fall. But then out came Travis Scott, the same man who we saw at Elimination Chamber when John Cena turned heel. That was not the main man who people were hoping to see during this match, who was there during Cena's heel turn at Elimination Chamber, but he was one of them. And they played his song Fiend, and it felt like forever because this man was taking his sweet time walking down the ramp, getting into the ring, or getting near the ring, I should say, and that's where things played itself out. He did take a bump. He didn't get a receipt from Cody Rhodes. I don't think it was that stiff, but he took the crossroads from Cody, and he sold it well. But then, as the referee, who had gotten pulled out again by Travis Scott, the referee's still down, and Cena grabs the championship belt, and he teases that he's going to hit Cody with it. Cody turns around, catches him, catches the belt. Brief tug of war. Now Cody has the belt, and Cena's begging off, and he is cowering, and he's trying to plead with Cody not to hit him with it, and Cody is having a crisis of conscience here, and he doesn't know what to do. He's conflicted. This man used to be my hero. This man used to be my mentor, someone I looked up to, someone who I was close with, and all that. And Cody is the good guy. He has morals. He has, a hero complex, all that stuff. So all this is playing out in Cody's mind. And then before he can really even think of a decision, Cena kicks him in the balls, and then he gets the belt and hits him right in the face with it. And once the referee gets back in, he counts 1, 2, 3, and Cena wins. LOL. Again, the issue in that whole recap there is not the fact that John Cena won. The issue is that a significant part of the finish of this match depended on the involvement of Travis Scott, and it made Cody in that moment look dumb, and it just felt so incredibly flat. Again, I get the story that they're trying to tell here. They were telling that story on the SmackDown before WrestleMania. They started that with Cena telling Cody, do you want to do what's right or do you want to win? And Cody, he's the good guy. He is respectful. He plays it safe. He tries to do the right thing. And that was ultimately his downfall here. His crisis of conscience moment there is what undid him, and it led to Cena winning, who no longer has morals. He no longer has loyalty or respect and all that kind of stuff. I get that. I can understand that. I see that plain as day. Again, it's the way they executed it that was horrible. It's all in the execution. It's all in how everything plays out. Night 1, main event. Triple threat match with Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and CM Punk. That twist ending with Seth Rollins turning heel, aligning with Paul Heyman. That is how you execute something. Even if you see it coming, even if it's predictable in your mind and you saw it a mile away, 10 miles away, what have you. It's all in the execution and the presentation. That was presented beautifully. This, on night 2, was not. This felt completely flat. And it's a shame, because night 2, this whole show was really, really good. The big criticism of night 1 was that it didn't feel like WrestleMania. A lot of the matches felt like standard TV matches. There was just no real excitement or high energy about anything. The crowd was quiet, all of that for night 1. And then that main event took place, and it was fantastic. On this night, you have several matches that were really great. You had the crowd up for almost everything. And then you get to that main event where, to be fair, they were very much into the main event and they were really loud for it. But just me sitting back and watching it all play out, the match itself felt very underwhelming, and the finish was even more underwhelming and a little bit disappointing. So it's unfortunate. If there was a way to combine it with the great main event from night 1 and the great undercard from night 2 and try to combine that, you would have, buried in there is a really good WrestleMania show. But now when you combine both nights and you take all that into account, it's really not that great. And when you want to compare the ending of night 2 to night 2 last year, it does not hold a candle. The match, the finish, all of that, not any of it can measure up to what we got at WrestleMania 40 last year, which, is not fair to compare the two, but I mean, these are WrestleManias, and all these WrestleManias together, you look at this one, couldn't quite measure up. But with all that said, John Cena is the champion. He is a 17-time champion. He's a heel. Ever since he turned heel at Elimination Chamber, what they've done with him, while in isolated moments, some of the stuff has been pretty entertaining. That first promo, the first back and forth with Cody, and things like that were very good. But just as a whole, in totality, Cena's heel run has been basically a bust up till this point, which also doesn't help the finish of this match, because almost everything they've done with John Cena as a heel up to this point has been very disappointing. So it is extra disappointing that the way in which he won the championship and the execution of the match where he won the championship was equally, if not more so, disappointing. Nevertheless, Cena's champ now. So what does his future hold? He has a laundry list of baby faces that can challenge him. Cena has threatened to win the title and retire with it. He's going to ruin wrestling, and he's going to retire with the championship and take it away from everyone. Well, you got a long list of baby faces up and down this roster that can step up and challenge him. One name in particular, Randy Orton. I'll be talking about him a little bit later. Randy Orton so happens to be from St. Louis. St. Louis happens to be the host of the Backlash PLE in a couple of weeks. There it is right there. Randy Orton, John Cena. Babyface Randy Orton versus heel John Cena for the WWE Championship in the main event of Backlash. It's right there for you. They announced that Money in the Bank is officially going to be in Los Angeles in June. It was a very famous match that John Cena had at the Money in the Bank event many, many years ago. And it was against one CM Punk. A little disappointing that it won't be in Chicago this time around, but LA, especially for a big hot match, can really get into it. So CM Punk and John Cena at Money in the Bank for the championship, I'd be all for it. And then ultimately coming back around to Cody Rhodes. Because Cody is still the guy. Even though he lost here, Cody is still the guy. He is still the man in the company. Hell, the reason John Cena turned heel in the first place is because Cody Rhodes is the top babyface of the company. So it doesn't matter. But ultimately, this is going to lead to Cody getting the belt back, and I can see that happening at SummerSlam. So for all you diehard Cody fans out there, don't cry too much, because Cody will be getting that belt back at some point soon, and Cena will do the honors and put him over and get that belt back. Or I'm wrong. I don't know. I expected The Rock to be on this show, and he was not. So I don't even know why they bothered doing that. I guess Rock got bored and wanted to talk about people's souls and all that kind of stuff for a little bit, and they decided to weave that in and jumpstart this whole angle here without any expectation of him being involved in the follow-up or the payoff or anything like that. So I don't know how you can objectively look at that and think that that's a well-told, well-structured, creatively written piece of storytelling there. It's very much not. How you introduce a character out of nowhere to basically create and manifest this entire story, and then to have zero follow-up for several weeks, and then you lead to the big seemingly finale or the big next chapter of it, and that piece of the story, the person who orchestrated it from the beginning, not being there. And I don't know who to blame. Do you blame The Rock for not being there? Do you blame Triple H and the creative team for not writing it better? I don't care who you blame. It just, as a viewer watching it, as someone looking on, it's very dull, uninteresting, and unentertaining, and very disappointing. And that's all there is to it. But even though Cena's heel run so far has been disappointing, there is still time. There is still a chance to turn the ship around. Apparently, John Cena's booked to be on the SmackDown after WrestleMania. We'll see. I think he's booked for a lot of SmackDown shows going forward. I know he's booked for Saturday night's main event in May. I'm not sure if he's on the schedule for Backlash. I assume he will be. And there's a whole bunch of dates that he's there for. Good. Have him come out. Have him cut a promo. Let him do some backstage stuff. Let him do some online stuff. Let him film some vignettes. Really have fun. Be creative with it. You did it. You went out of your way to turn him heel and do this. Now have fun with it. All up to this point, it's been very basic shit that they've done with him. They haven't done anything really interesting. They haven't tried to be really extra creative with it. All they've done is they open the show, play some music, go quiet, hit Cena's music. He walks out there, cuts a promo for 20 minutes, and then leaves. And then that's it. That's all his appearances have been. So please do a little bit better than that going forward. If you're going to put the championship on him and keep it on him for God knows how long, make it worth the while, you know? Everything up to this point has been very, very bad. We'll just go ahead and say that. There's still time to turn it around and make this very interesting. All I can do is hope. They've given me about 6 weeks worth of evidence to prove that there is not a lot of hope that it'll be that interesting, but by hell or high water, I still have hope. So we'll see what happens. And to reiterate a point that I made earlier, despite the finish of this main event, this show was really good. In particular, the opening match, the triple threat for the Women's World Championship between Rhea Ripley, Bianca Belair, and champion Iyo Sky. That match was fantastic. An instant classic, an instant all-timer WrestleMania match, one of the best opening matches to a WrestleMania ever. It was great. All three women killed it in that match. Bianca still getting crazily booed by this crowd. Iyo was loved. Rhea was beloved. And I thought all three of them knocked it out of the park here. They were showcasing all of their powers and skills and abilities. The crowd was eating out of the palm of their hands. They had so many different sequences of incredible finishes or finisher counters and reversals and all this different stuff that was going on in that match, and the crowd was eating it up. And even the finishing sequence to the match was absolutely incredible. That was another thing about some of the opening matches on this show. The finishes to those matches were really good. Unfortunately, that didn't carry over into the main event, but I digress. The finisher here saw Bianca and Rhea going at it. They're exchanging blows and going back and forth. Riptide attempt, counter, KOD attempt, all that kind of stuff. And then Bianca uses her braid and hauls off and just whips Rhea right in the gut with it. She gets her up on her shoulders, hits her with the KOD, goes to pin her, but then meanwhile, Iyo, who got left up there on the top turnbuckle by Rhea earlier in the match, she comes down mid-pinfall attempt, hits the over-the-top moonsault onto both ladies, pins Bianca, and gets the win. And Iyo is still the champion. The finish itself was incredible. The match itself was incredible. And the outcome was incredible, with Iyo retaining her championship as predicted. So both women's world champions walked in and walked out of WrestleMania this year still champion, which is great. And Iyo won. She was presented in a way of being an afterthought throughout this build-up, which, I mean, is not great, but clearly that was the story they were telling. That was the narrative they were pushing, so it was intentional. But in the end, Iyo was the one to get the win, and she pinned Bianca. That is worth noting because Rhea did not get pinned, and there is still a story there to tell with Iyo and Rhea. Rhea still has never beaten Iyo Sky one-on-one, So I'm sure that story can carry over and continue on past WrestleMania until Rhea gets her belt back. As for Bianca, maybe these boos keep affecting her and she ends up turning heel. I don't know. I'd love to see it. I don't know if they're going to do it. I'm surprised there was no Naomi appearance here. Even though she lost the previous night, I thought that she might show up here. There was nothing about the two nights that really impacted each other all that much. And that's another thing. Back to the main event. Because there was that question of, will Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman, might that play a factor into the main event of night 2? That was just really fantasy booking. That was speculation, just kind of spitballing ideas. So because that didn't happen, that is not why that finish was bad. Because Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman came out is not why that finish was bad. That would have been better than Travis Scott appearing, I can tell you that much, but again, that's not why that was bad. It was bad because it was bad. That's why. Nevertheless, the opening match was great. The Sin City street fight between Drew McIntyre and Damian Priest was also really great. These guys they played with all the toys, the steel chairs, steel steps, some tables, just two big heavyweight dudes beating the hell out of each other. Drew McIntyre recreated a moment from last year's WrestleMania where he tweeted mid-match, and this time he didn't live to regret it because McIntyre ended up picking up the win as Priest had McIntyre in position to hit him with the old school. As he was walking the top rope, he got pushed off and fell out onto the floor, crashed through two tables, and then got back in the ring, and McIntyre wedged a steel chair in the corner in between the top and middle turnbuckles and placed Priest's head right next to it and then hit him with a pretty nasty looking Claymore kick right into the chair, pinned him 1, 2, 3, and Drew McIntyre won. I like Priest. Priest is perfectly fine. He's not as over now as he once was when he was on Raw, but Priest is still a good dude, good character, but Drew McIntyre still on another level, so I was glad to see him get a defiant, very strong victory at WrestleMania. And months ago, I was predicting Drew versus Roman at WrestleMania, or hoping for Drew versus Roman. You know what? At least Drew won here, because had that match happened, even if that would have been a bigger spotlight for him, he was not going to win that match. So, good on Drew for getting a win here. We had the Fatal 4-Way for the Intercontinental Championship with Braun Breaker defending against Finn Balor, Dominic Mysterio, and Penta. This was a really fun match too. And these fans, they cheered for Penta. They were somewhat indifferent towards Finn Balor. They were barking for Braun Breaker, but they were really into Dominic Mysterio. My boy Dom here was getting a lot of heavy cheers from this crowd, which played a big role in the finish of this match. Braun Breaker, what else can you say about this man? He has spent several weeks now torturing Carlito, hitting him with some of the best spears that we've ever seen. And yet again, he hit him with another one here. Carlito, of course, part of Judgment Day, he was out there, tried to interfere. He even cost Penta the match at one point. But as Carlito was up on, I believe, the American announce table, Braun ran across the Spanish announce table and basically leaped off of it in one fluid motion, leaped off the Spanish announce table and crashed right into Carlito on the American announce table, and they crashed through it with a spear. I thought that was great. But down the line here, we see Dominic hit a 619 on Braun. He goes up top, about to hit the frog splash, but then Finn Balor comes over, crotches Dom, and then he gets back in the ring. He mixes it up with Braun, ends up hitting him with the coup de grace, and then as he pins him, Dominic comes off with a frog splash onto Finn and pins Finn to get the win here. So Finn Balor lives on, and Dominic Mysterio won the Intercontinental Championship again, to a huge pop, a huge ovation. At one point, he even left the ring and then ran back down. I don't know if he got a cue to pose again, but whatever it was, he ran back down to the ring. The fans were still cheering for him, and they loved it. And this is something that everyone saw coming. A lot of people were predicting that Dom would get the win here. It's the perfect way to further evolve this storyline within the Judgment Day and the dissension between Dom and Balor. So it made sense for Dom to get the win here. I'm happy for the kid. He has improved greatly, and it was about time for him to pick up a mid-card championship. So good stuff there. I enjoyed it, and it's really cool that Dom got to win the Intercontinental Championship just like his dad, Eddie Guerrero. On to the next one. We have Randy Orton. Of course, his originally scheduled match with Kevin Owens could not happen. Unforeseen circumstances. So Randy Orton came out here for an open challenge, his 20th WrestleMania appearance here. Who was going to answer the call? A lot of names being speculated over the past couple of days. Who was going to be the one to show up? It was none other than the TNA World Champion himself, Joe Hendry, making an appearance at WrestleMania. Got a huge ovation. Honestly, one of the biggest pops of the entire night went to Joe Hendry here. So that was cool. Hendry comes out. His song is playing. The fans are cheering along with it. They're waving their hands, doing all that stuff. And the two of them proceeded to wrestle a match that ended with Randy Orton hitting the RKO and winning. And that's really all there is to it. There was a little bit of a mix-up back and forth, but not that much. It couldn't have really exceeded 5 minutes. I'm pretty sure it was about 3 or 5 minutes. And Joe Hendry did that turnaround pose for the hard cam. And I thought in my head in that moment, like, oh man, that would be cool if a few minutes later, towards the end of this match, if Randy hits him with an RKO on that spot. Didn't have to wait. Randy hit him with an RKO right then and there, which was cool. And Randy won. And then after the match, he helped up Joe. He raised his arm. He was clapping for him, posing for the crowd. And then he hit him with another RKO for good measure. So that is how TNA got their representation on this show. All I'll say about that is Randy Orton needed to win this match because, again, I suspect that Randy Orton's getting a championship match at Backlash in a couple of weeks. As for Joe Hendry, the TNA World Champion, coming to WrestleMania and basically jobbing out to Randy Orton in very quick fashion, looking like a scrub. If you're a diehard TNA fan seeing that, I can completely understand why you would be ticked off at that and you would take offense at that and you would be very upset at seeing that. And I could understand it if the promotion TNA themselves would be upset over that. But there is not an ounce of my being that believes for a second that TNA were upset with this. All they saw is that their guy, their top man, their world champion, came out at WrestleMania wearing their belt, wrestled Randy Orton, a well-known top main event star, one of the biggest stars in WWE history, at WrestleMania, one of the biggest wrestling shows of all time, and he got to go out there and wrestle him. Their guy, their brand was all over their place. The commentators mentioned TNA, the ring announcer, there's like he was introduced as a TNA World Champion, all that stuff, and that's all they care about. That's why that's what this partnership is. So if you were expecting more with the TNA guy, I'm sorry, but the company you watch, that's not what they do. So that's what happened. We had AJ Styles take on Logan Paul. Pretty good match. Not anything overly special, but it was very good. Logan Paul, say what you want to about him from on a personal level, but the dude is a crazy athlete. He continues to impress every time he goes out there. AJ, he's older, but the dude still got it. And he can go out there and put on a really great match. And this, while nothing on the level of the 4-way match or the opening match, I would probably slot this at probably number 3, just like a smidge above the street. Actually, you know what? I kind of put the street fight above this one. I kind of rank it as the opening match, the 4-way, the street fight, and then this one. And that's not to even say this match was bad. It's just, it really goes more to hype up those opening matches than anything else. But this match was pretty good. The finish was very interesting. We see this guy, Jeff, who's one of Logan Paul's friends. We always see him show up in some of these big matches where he passes him the brass knucks. So he appeared here too, as both men were down in the ring. And then out came Karrion Kross, who met Jeff on the outside. He even got a big pop for it. Karrion Kross, he also got, it wasn't necessarily a pop, but he was in the Andre Battle Royal on SmackDown. And when he got eliminated, there were boos for that. So first there being boos for him being eliminated from the Battle Royal, and now him getting cheers for showing up at WrestleMania here. That was a pretty cool moment for him. But he intercepted Jeff here. AJ slid out of the ring, knocked Jeff away. At this point, Karrion Kross got his hands on the brass knucks, and he sets them down on the ring apron, and he's pleading with AJ, please just use the brass knucks, just use it one time, use them. You know, finish him off, finish off Logan Paul, use the brass knucks. And AJ, like the dumb babyface that he is, throws the brass knucks away and decks Karrion Kross right in the face, gets back on the apron, goes for the phenomenal forearm, but then gets caught by a wicked right hand from Logan Paul, who then hits him with the pulverizer and gets the 1-2-3. So AJ, who I felt probably needed a big win more than Logan Paul did, that's not the story they were telling here, and it gave Logan Paul the victory. I don't know if this means this is going to continue with him and AJ. There's unresolved business here. Unresolved business with Karrion Kross as well. So maybe AJ faces off with Kross first, circles back around to Logan Paul at a later date. I don't know. But the match itself was fine. Hopefully, Karrion Kross, can get a nice little push coming out of this. The dude has a lot of talent. He has a lot of presence about him. He has been a little stagnant in his character for a couple of years now, but a lot of the work he's been doing recently with his social media stuff and the little subtleties of his character that he's been implementing, I hope it pays off for him. As for Logan Paul, honestly, him getting the win here made the idea pop into my head of him being a potential first challenger for Jey Uso in the World Heavyweight Championship, maybe even at Backlash. I don't know how quickly they're going to go into heel Seth Rollins probably taking that championship from Jey Uso. I mentioned in my Night 1 review that if anyone's taking that belt from Jey, it's very likely going to be Seth Rollins. I don't know how quickly they're going to go into that. So maybe in the meantime, if they want to feed Jey some challengers for him to beat, I think Logan Paul could be someone to put him in there with for him to easily beat. Logan Paul is a heat magnet. People love Jey Uso. So it could be a pretty good pairing there. And it could be a pretty good match. Honestly, Logan Paul could give Jey Uso a really good match. I'm not even joking about that. I think Logan Paul paired up with Jey Uso could be one of the better matches that Jey Uso could have. And with him being world champion, it's a little important for him to have some really good matches before he ultimately loses that title to someone. And I think Logan Paul could be someone to put him out there with. So it worked for Cody last year, so maybe it can happen for Jey. And then the women's tag team titles were on the line on this show as Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez defended against Lyra Valkyria and what was supposed to be Bayley. But as mentioned during my Night 1 review, and they showed it on the pre-show of Night 1, Bayley got attacked. I'm using the air quotes there, attacked, and she was incapable of wrestling on Night 2. This happened on the pre-show of night one, and by just Bayley laying on the ground, they determined right then and there that she would be unable to compete the next night. Just a lame way to write Bayley out of this match. Something they knew for weeks they were doing. Again, very lame and very shitty for Bayley. Sucks that she didn't get to compete at WrestleMania. Sucks worse that they wrote her off of the show in such a dumb way, but oh well. So, who was the mystery partner going to be? Obviously, everyone knew it was going to be Becky Lynch. Everyone in the crowd knew too, but that didn't stop them from going crazy, cheering their heads off for Becky as she came out there. She was out there. She pretty much stayed on the apron for the most part. Lyra was really getting worked over here, and they were building up to the hot tag for her. She came in, and I mean, you knew exactly what this was going to be as soon as the first riff of Becky's theme song hit. Becky ends up hitting the manhandle slam on Liv and gets the win, and she and Lyra are now the new WWE Women's Tag Team Champions. Again, shitty situation for Bayley. I get that this is how they're writing it, and I know people are probably upset over Liv losing. You know, Liv had such a strong year last year. She was Women's World Champion. Her in-ring work has been really great, especially now over the past couple of months, in the first couple of months of 2025 so far. She's been great, and I know a lot of people are going to be upset about this. You already see it. I was seeing it on my timeline. You know, Becky Hogan, brother, you know, all that kind of stuff. All I'll say about Becky Lynch being slotted in this position, Becky's not the one booking the show, okay? Becky is not like, okay, her being as long-lasting of a presence in the company as she is, her star power, maybe she has some level of influence over what she does. And I think there was even a report that was already breaking out during the show that, oh, Becky and the company, they were waiting for the right time creatively for her to come back in response to the question of why it took so long for her to come back. That was basically the idea, that it was all a matter of what was the most creatively rich opening for her to come back, and apparently they felt that this was the time. I disagree, but nonetheless, this is what they did. So for the people who are upset personally at Becky Lynch herself, or even worse, Rebecca Quinn, which you wouldn't think you would see that stuff, but you know, a quick scroll through of certain tweets, you'll see it. You know, stay away from that and don't be that kind of person. But you saw some of that stuff, completely unnecessary, bottom of the barrel garbage there. And yeah, I mean, Becky gets put in these situations. It's almost hypocritical if people, you know, target Charlotte Flair for certain things, but then they don't also go after Becky. You shouldn't go after any of these people personally, because these people, no matter what kind of influence you think they have, they're not the ones writing these shows. At the end of the day, when they are told to do something by their boss, that's what they're going to do. It's their boss, the guy who was in interviews over the past week telling people to not be critics and to be fans and to not have opinions and to just shut the fuck up. That same guy who everyone cheers for and all that dude, he's the one who writes the show. So if you have an issue with Becky being in a position like this and what happened to Bayley and the main event and all this stuff, target him. In fact, as I'm recording, I'm looking over at the TV. He's speaking right now in the WrestleMania post show. So maybe someone can ask him questions and he can stumble over his words and throw in his uhs and ums and you know, and the thing is, all that kind of stuff. So target that energy there. But as for the matches, that's all of that. We did get an appearance from Stone Cold Steve Austin. Some people were hoping that we'd get a Rock and Austin appearance during the main event. We did not. We got no Rock, and we got Austin here, who came out on his ATV, and for the first time that I can recall, he finally crashed into something. As he was barreling around ringside, it was like for just a split second, he looked over at Pat McAfee on commentary, and then he glanced back over, and he crashed right into the barricade. And right in front of a woman in the front row who looked deathly terrified. It wasn't even like a quick little shock. This woman legitimately looked afraid for her life. And in that moment, that was very scary. And to show just how scary of a moment it was, after Austin was done, he came out to announce the attendance number. I think it was 63,226 was the number. And then the total number audience between both nights, I think it was like 124,000, something like that. Regardless, whatever fake number they announced. They showed later on over at ringside, Nick Khan, the WWE president, he was talking to the woman. And Austin kind of came over, leaned over, and I guess checked things out too. But that's how serious of a moment that was. So we'll see what comes from that. But yeah, to me, it was just crazy seeing Austin actually crash into something, because all these years of him barreling down the ramp and riding around ringside, this is the first time I can recall him actually crashing into a wall. But it finally happened, and he damn near gave a woman a heart attack in the process. But that is it for WrestleMania. WrestleMania Night 1, Night 2, WrestleMania 41 as a whole is now over. Thank God. Thank Christ. The build up to this show some people liked it, others hated it. I was kind of in the middle. I saw a lot of positives, saw a lot of negatives. A lot of the shows leading up to the show just have not been great. The build up to WrestleMania 41 was not great. And WrestleMania 41 as a whole, honestly, not that great. Good, okay, but not that great. And when you have finishes like the one on this show, and it's only fair that I pointed out with WWE, I have spent many months now crapping on AEW and their shitty main event finishes on their pay-per-views, like at Revolution, like at Dynasty. So I pointed it out there. It's only fair that I do the same for WWE. And like those shows, again, there were people out there who liked those endings too. And if there are people who liked the ending of this show, with the way it went down, with the Travis Scott involvement and the way they did, the belt shot with Cody and all that, if you liked that and you loved it and you ate it up, good for you. But for me, I thought it sucked. I thought it was lame. But John Cena himself winning did not suck, was not lame, and I'm all for it. And I look forward to seeing where they go with heel John Cena as the world champion, having a stranglehold over that belt. I look forward to seeing where they go with Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman. If they're smart, those two men will be the first faces you see on Monday Night Raw tomorrow night when that show goes on the air, hearing an explanation between the two of them. Either that or save them for the end and build the entire show up around hearing from Seth and Heyman for the first time. So I look forward to seeing how that plays itself out. And maybe at some point those things will collide. As of now, it looks like those are two completely different things on completely different shows. Cena's going to be appearing on SmackDown predominantly going forward. Rollins is a Raw guy, so I'm sure that story will play out there. No intersection in the immediate future, but maybe down the line. But for now, separately, I look forward to seeing how those stories play itself out. Creative hasn't been great. Oh, sorry, I know Triple H said we're not allowed to have these opinions, but if I were to have an opinion, I would say the creative for a lot of this stuff has not been great, but I'm a fan, I watch, I tune in, and all I can do is hope that things will improve and the stories that they started here can continue, can elevate, can evolve, all that good stuff, and can result in very good television until the next pay-per-view or PLE and the one after that, and so on and so forth. And as for WrestleMania itself and the feelings about WrestleMania, well, better luck next year for 42 in New Orleans. Until next time, I'll be back here to talk about the post-Mania Raw show And then I'll be back at the end of the week to talk about SmackDown, if there's anything worth talking about. Again, I'm pretty sure John Cena's supposed to be there, and I'm pretty sure that's where we will see the return of Aleister Black on that show. Speaking of which, coming out of WrestleMania, Raw and SmackDown both could be paving the way for a lot of debuts, a lot of returns, NXT call-ups, some of those free agents that got signed, and all that stuff that's been reported for the past couple of months. Will they make an appearance this week? We don't know. But I'll be tuning into that stuff this week, and then take a couple of weeks off talking about WWE for a while. I'm kind of wiped out because of WrestleMania. So we'll take a little break and be back to talk about Backlash in a couple of weeks. And then after that, probably talk about Double or Nothing from AEW. So until next time, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for everyone who tuned into my WrestleMania Night 1 review. Thank you for those listening, still listening right now. Appreciate all of you. Thank you. And as always, like what you see, hear, all that stuff, comment down below, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Follow me on Twitter/X at DerekJ Speaks. And thank you once again, truly, bottom of my heart. Thank you. Take care.